my weekly live stream with Carmelia Ray. This is Powerful Partnerships, and I'm excited to see you all here. Looking forward to the conversation. Now, if you are just joining us, we are here every Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time to share thoughts on partnerships, whether they're professional partnerships, whether they're personal partnerships, and all the different aspects about that to effectively, collaborate with people in a much more effective and stronger way that's going to impact your business and your life. And so that's what we're here today. If you are here, comment below, let us know where you're listening in from. We'd love to be a part of the conversation. We invite you to actually, share your actual, insights and questions in the feed. Today's topic is about how to break up effectively in business and life. Although, we may segue a little bit because there's just so much going on. Normally, what I do is I post next week's event in my post this morning. But today, I felt the need to talk about Will Smith and Chris Rock and Jada Pinkett Smith from last night's Oscars. I'm a huge Oscar buff, and I wrote an article on LinkedIn talking about my predictions, which actually went really well. 20 for 23, which is my best result ever. And one of them, wow. I decided to go for an upset. So I probably would have got 21 out of 23. So, and all my second picks were also chosen anyway. So I did well, but it's been on my mind. So I posted this morning about the whole situation, and we can certainly talk about that, but I also want to make sure we don't miss out on talking about breaking up effectively. But Carmelia, what about you? How are you doing? And why don't you start with the introduction, actually?
Yes, thank you, Bobby. Also, am in that conversation, shock and awe about what happened yesterday, so can't wait to talk about that. I am live streaming here from California. I wish I could say it's sunny California, but it's actually raining. But I'm sure the palm trees and cactuses could use that little bit of water, hydration. Anyway, I was here to celebrate my 50th birthday. I turned 50 on Friday.
Happy birthday!
And yeah, so I'm a matchmaker, a relationship expert, been in the industry for almost 30 years in matchmaking. And I am, helping others with, like yourself, Bobby, personal branding, getting in media, getting featured. And speaking of media, my goodness, last night, the Oscars was viewed by millions and millions of people. And it started with that, I'll call it incident, that, emotional action. I think it was really
a slap heard around the world.
A slap around the world. Oh my God. As Chris Rock said to him, Will Smith just slapped the shit out of me. So, and it's not funny, but I gotta say this. I have to give Chris Rock immense credit for how he handled that situation. And he literally jaw dropped, made a joke about the situation, because I think he was in shock himself. I remember me and the kids, it's my daughter who pointed it out to me. I'm like, what happened just there? And so commending Chris Rock for that. And I really do sincerely, empathize. I really empathize with Will right now. And I can't imagine what he's going through with respect to being accountable for his actions and defending his wife. And if you noticed his very emotional speech, Bobby, and over the last little while, you can see in all of Will Smith's interviews, he's been incredibly emotional, coupled by the fact, and I'm not justifying his behavior, coupled with the fact that he has said very, very strongly and repeatedly on all the awards and shows that he's had in the past, is that he is a strong defender of women and women's rights and women's movements. So I think this situation that happened to him, getting up and doing what he did, was a need, like just an emotional reaction coupled with everything that's going on. Again, not condoning the situation, but I can just see from how emotional he was and I think the ego that he had in that moment to feel justified in doing what he did. So what's your take on that?
Yeah, I think it's extremely complicated. I posted about it on LinkedIn this morning, and I talked about it because there's so many different issues here. There's issues of, first, number one, violence is wrong, period. And he has to be held accountable to that. There's also about, people are talking about the tastefulness of the joke. which was vetted probably by Oscar producers and was rehearsed and things like that. They also have a long history. I mean, there's so many things we don't know. We don't know how Chris Rock was feeling. Did he know about the alopecia? Alopecia. Sorry. And also, I mean, they've known each other. They're friends. They've hung out together in public and things like that. So, but to me, there's things about the community, right? So the diverse communities or marginalized communities or even racialized communities will say, let's keep it in house. Let's work together. I mean, afterwards, they even, apparently according to Diddy, they reconciled. But, Will Smith is going to be.
Did they though? I don't think.
Well, that's according to reports. According to reports, that's what Diddy said, that at the after party at Vanity Fair, they apparently, But I think for the most part, they probably, because they do know each other and they are part of that inner circle, they probably maybe talked it out. But the thing is, again, this is there's lots to say, but I mean, there's so much to talk about in terms of culture and domestic situations. We don't know what people are thinking, how they're feeling. I feel really sad about it, but I also think that, he did a lot of damage to himself and the people around him, the movies that he's with, the community, taking away from all the other amazing diverse actors and producers and directors and writers who won stuff, and all because of, and there were so many different ways you could have handled it better. So it's going to be really hard on him he's going to do a lot of damage control. He's going to seek professional help. He's going to have to effectively manage his business and life and partnerships, personal and professional, far more, trepidatiously and cautiously, because, I think there's going to be a lot of issues with that, and you can criticize every aspect of the situation, from the joke to his approach to what Jada said or didn't say to how people went up to him afterwards. But the point is, they're always going to remember the slap, and they're always going to remember that, he should have done that. And we're going to see what happened. I look forward to seeing what comes out of this and what is said, because I think that's a huge part of this situation.
Yeah, well, let's just get to, again, the topic, which is so interesting, because this is a nice segue. How to break up effectively. Number one, that would not be a great way to break up effectively, right? Because a lot of breakups happen, like even friendships break up. We're talking about business partners breaking up. I'm hopeful, and it would give me great joy to know that they do reconcile after this. But certainly, a situation like this for someone else could have been led to a different path, right? And breaking up with a partner, professional or not, if it is because of a breach, an insult, a difference of opinion, in this case, like a form of assault, sometimes that happens because there's an assault, there's a violent action or even threat of violence. You don't even have to do the action. You can just threaten. It's the same way.
That's true.
Like Bobby, if all of a sudden you're like, Carm, I don't think we should do this powerful partnership. Oh, really? You promised me, and now I'm going to do this. That's a threat. If you believe that I have the intent to damage you, to harm you, to do something to your reputation, that's as real for some people as it happening, just having the threat of it. And so that is not an effective way to break any partnership, is to end with threats, right? To end with violence, to end with an insult, to end with any of those things. I would, for us, and what I would recommend for effective breakups is, first of all, in our previous episodes, we already talked about you having already discussed the plan, already having had that thought out, so that when in fact you no longer agree, or when in fact you both agree it's best to not work together, best not to do business together, you've already put it in writing. You already know what that path looks like because you've already agreed to it. It's similar to a prenup, right? This is the reason why, high level divorce marriages and high net worth, not even high net worth, just anybody who decides that they want to protect their assets and themselves, do that prenup. So when the time comes, you're like, okay, this is great. We've talked about it. We're gonna follow through on these steps. So I want to just point that out. Effective breakups is forecasting and already talking about the what ifs. What if this doesn't work out? What do we do? And then you follow the agreed plan on that. What are your thoughts on that, Bobby?
Well, no, I think that obviously having an agreed plan in advance and setting expectation, I think is key to even forming a partnership. And then after, whether it's again personal or professional, and then but then when you actually want to break up effectively, I think one of the biggest things that I would say is that this happens in relationships. It also happens in businesses. We almost always take far too long to bring up the issue. Like, most marriages, for example, they say that by the time they seek counseling, it's 5 years of trouble and it's almost always going to end. And they have to break up amicably. Same with, I've been in a situation where I had a conflict with a team member and it just kept, and I kept trying to manage it. And I wasn't willing to let it go. And it went on for 6 months and it held us back. And in the end, I realized, you know what, I should have had that conversation way back before and just decided to split ways, because then we would progress more quickly. So I think that's something that comes into play. And then the other thing I think we can segue this back to the situation, because the Will Smith situation, because right away, the first thing I would say, look, you do PR and media. If I'm associated with him, how do I break up? Do I break up right away and say, yeah, we're going to suspend all, association with Will Smith? Or do I have a private conversation with his agents and saying, listen, you need to let us know what he's doing in the next couple of weeks or month, because we may in the future, if he doesn't, turn this around or, start apologizing more directly and deeply and all that kind of stuff, then we may want to leave. I mean, or should we break up? I mean, what exactly would be your take on that?
Number one, when a breach happens, when you've done something that, first of all, he has to acknowledge whether or not he believes he was at fault and whether he believes he did something wrong. Because number one, Bobby, he could take the position, I'm justified and I don't care. I'm fine with that action. I don't know what he's going to say. I'm pretty sure his advisors would tell him to formally apologize.
Yeah, right? I don't think he's going to do that. I think the issue is whether he apologizes to Chris Rock specifically. Right.
So accept responsibility, be accountable. That's step one, right? Number two, what's the, and it has to be to Chris Rock, because as you noticed, he apologized to the Academy and he said, love will make you do crazy things, but he did not directly apologize to Chris. I think he missed a big opportunity there to apologize to Chris directly, because that would have meant he acknowledged where he was at fault. And that might have made the situation a little less surprising, right?
Well, let me add one thing though, because in my post I addressed that and I said, look, I understand there's gonna be criticisms of his speech. I think that if you look at it contextually, he definitely was in anguish, visibly and physically, because he realized, I'm in a shitty position. I screwed up, and oh my God, this is bittersweet, and I've caused a lot of havoc on people. That's why he addressed the Williams sisters. That's why he addressed the families. He addressed the room in terms of that. But I personally don't think that he was going to address Chris Rock there, because it was 40 minutes ago. It was real. It was raw. It was recent. And he just kind of did the general, I apologize to everybody here in this room in the Academy. I think, because he has basically three or 4 minutes to do his best actor acceptance speech. And he decided to address the elephant in the room. But I think later on, he's going to have to address, he might say, Chris Rock and I have resolved this and we're good now. And they may press him to say, did you apologize? He'll probably say, I did apologize. But in that moment, I mean, I can understand, that, he's trying to carefully craft his words, and he has 40 minutes to prepare. What the hell am I going to say in the next, when I win this thing? I can't even imagine what he has to do. But, I think overall, you're right. It was a missed opportunity, but I also think that he can't do everything in that moment. And what he does next is going to be huge.
Yes, what he does next is huge. Again, the acknowledgement that something that he didn't act the way that he should have acted in that scenario, right? And on top of that, you could see how he was also very threatening when he said, "Don't use my effing, wife's," and he was it was threatening. It was like, I'm coming after you. Like, you don't do that. Now, Bobby, I'll tell you my personal opinion. I do not think that joke was rehearsed at all. I do not think, like, who's going to pick on Jada Pinkett Smith? You know, a lot of comedians, and I was just at Joe Coy's comedy show, okay? It's incredible to me, and I see a lot of stand-up comics that see the front row audience. They're in the front row. Points are out, says G.I. Jane. I think that that was completely spontaneous. I really think that that was spontaneous.
Possibly, yeah.
And as a result, you know, because they crack spontaneous jokes. Remember, if somebody comes up with like a bird costume or glitter, they'll be like, oh my God, can you turn down your costume? They comment on what people are wearing. Anyway, so I think that was that. That being said, I don't think that that it was out of bad taste. And if he did not know what was going on with Jada Pinkett Smith, then maybe that's his bad as well for not knowing that, because I don't think he realized how actually offensive that was. And I think later on reflection, he'll get why it was such an offense and why Will felt so compelled to do what he did. Still doesn't excuse it. So back to that breakup thing. Again, if this had happened and now there's a decision that companies are going to break up with Will, they're going to take a stand on this act of violence or not, then that's one thing. The other thing is the race issue. They're saying, hey, if it was a white man, like, and he slapped a white, like he's a black man slapping a white man, why is it okay that it's a black man slapping another black man? Like, what if it was a woman who said that joke? I mean, there are so many what ifs and whatnots, but let's just deal with that situation at hand. Will have to do his damage control. He'll have to take responsibility. And now it's up to the companies as to whether or not, again, take this one incident. I am certainly not going to define, me personally, I'm not defining Will Smith by that one moment. Are you kidding me? I would not take away his years of whatever he's done and parenting and what he's done for communities in that one moment. I'm personally not going to do that. So I would be very sad to know that other people would do that. But if you see the comments and read the comments, there's a lot of disappointment. Man, I'm so disappointed that he did that. You know what it is? He's a human being. He showed he's as needing emotional support, coaching, counseling, whatever he needs to do so that he doesn't behave that way, and like management in the future, that needs to happen.
Well, let me press this further then. I mean, so Lila Smith is saying that I think he rehearsed a joke. He knew where she'd be sitting. There's a seating chart, and he knew where she'd be, and she thinks he didn't know she had alopecia. So that's interesting. I mean, I don't know. I assume he didn't know it too because you know, she was open about it, and they're friends and they're colleagues and whatnot. But then the other question that comes up in terms of partnerships and breaking up is, you know, you said you personally wouldn't break up over the one incident. And I understand that someone who's built up an entire brand and they have that one huge thing they screw up in. But the other question is, when would you advise someone to break up? Because let's say, for example, I'm an organization around a specific topic that definitely goes against what he just did, right? And, you know, for me, if I'm advising that organization, I say, you know what, you may want to disassociate yourself for a while. Or you might want to say, you know what, you need to find out what's happening the next couple of weeks in terms of what he does, and just keep quiet for a little bit, figure that out, and just have private conversations about where you want to go. And then maybe, you know, I don't know. I mean, you know, like.
Well, here's the answer to that question is whether you believe in cancel culture or not. Like, and number two, Will, as you know, the Smiths are their own media marketing house. They have their own shows. They have their own distribution network. They have their own production company. So if Will wants to make a movie, it's not going to stop him from making a movie. You're not talking about some like actor coming up. This guy's got an established media brand. They can create all kinds of things. I don't think he's losing. I personally don't think he's going to lose tons and tons of fans to that. Maybe. Now, repeated offenses, something that was, you know, if he had gotten up with the award itself and bashed him at like the degree of the violence, the degree of.
Well, yeah, that's something that comes up too, right? So one is, you know, if he yells stuff and, you know, and what he says and how he says it is one thing. Slapping him is another thing. He had the capacity right there. He could have punched him to the floor. I mean, there's lots of different levels here. And, you know, I still think it's very, very scary power and privilege to go up on stage and do that go back to your seat, get your award, get a standing ovation. And I mean, there's a lot of power in politics and privilege at play here. It's very complicated.
I don't know. I'd love to know whether Oscar recipients know that they won. I don't know that in that moment that Will knows he won. Like,
well, he was one of him and Ariana DeBose were the only two people that had won every single thing. The bets were completely in their favor and 100% locks to win. So I'm sure he knew he was going to win. Other people did not.
And if you know you're gonna win, are you actually going to do what he did? Like, are you actually gonna do that? And by the way, some of the commentary is saying that Denzel Washington was like, I wouldn't say he advocated for it, but he was definitely on Will's side in defending his wife, because now, and anybody who knows Denzel Washington also, I believe that he has a long-standing partnership with his wife, and anybody's going to come at, there's husbands here and there's guys here that are going to do the caveman and go, you talk about my mama, you talk about my wife, you are going to get slapped in the face. And the thing is, Chris Rock also acknowledged, like, all right, I'm not gonna, my bad, I'm not gonna talk about your wife, poor taste in joke. He apologized because he got how triggering that was, and he also is choosing not to press charges. So you got to also think, Bobby, in terms of communities, right? There are people who will see that and watch it in horror, and there are other people that see that and be like, dude, you should have known better, man. You should have not said that kind of a joke or whatever. And so he slapped you in the face, big effing deal. Some people will take that position that it's not such a big deal, like whether you call that fortunately or unfortunately, because how many women will slap a man in the face? How many men actually slap partners in the face? Same sex, opposite sex, whatever. It's not fun to watch. It was really like we were all, me and the kids are all like, whoa. And then you see that repetition. It's like, darn it, like what's going to happen here? It was not a fun thing to watch or be part of.
Yeah, and there's some great comments here from Lila Smith, who talks about, you can support someone without being an advocate of their behavior. I completely agree with that, right? So, so when Tyler Perry and Denzel Washington and Bradley Cooper went to console Will Smith, they were trying to de-escalate and calm things down. It doesn't mean the advocate is there, but in that moment, you're not going to say, they're going to say, calm down, I know you're upset, calm down. And then afterwards, you can certainly condemn, hey, you shouldn't have done that. And then, Lila also says that the behavior is an indication that something is wrong. So Denzel checking in was supportive, not a statement of agreement. So yeah, and Lila, I'd love to talk to her about that, because I know she's really into this type of stuff. I think that again, there's going to be lots to figure out afterwards. There's so many different layers too. Like when it comes, like for example, there's toxic masculinity. There's also like, well, what did Jada want or not want? And he could have just yelled, and he could have just confronted. He could have had an opportunity to go on stage and say, "Hey, this is not okay," and that's it. But that's not what he did. So it'll be interesting to see how things go.
I think that's the really sad part of the situation, because, again, I think the common consensus here, and I hope that Will take this stance, is that nobody condoned slapping Chris. And I think he will own the fact that he should have never done that. And then to follow it up with another threat, very verbally, very aggressively, keep my, her name out your effing mouth. What? And then he said it again with more aggression. You could more aggression and more threats, like it's almost, the insinuation is, you think I slapped you, but you watch what happens if you continue to do, because what if he says it again? Are you going to go up and slap him again? Like again, Chris handled it very, very well. He diffused it. He moved on. No, I was very impressed. I was really surprised by Chris. I was even impressed with when Diddy came out and said, we're gonna deal with this as a family, which reminds me of, and I'll share a little personal story. Like I'm part of what? Sorry, what was that? Who said they're going to deal with it as
Diddy came out later on and said that Chris and Will, we're going to deal with this later as a family. And that's a cultural community reference. And for me, like I remember, I'm part of a, cultural community of, let's say, Pakistani Muslims. Okay. And I remember one time in one of our community events, there was an altercation, right? And, someone got really, really upset and really angry. And, but then we dealt with it within that community. I mean, the only problem was this was in front of 1 billion people, whereas the one we had was just there at the community center. But we felt the need to just deal with it internally within our community, and they were able to resolve and talk it through. And this one's a little bit more public, so that's interesting. Now, Lila has a question, which is, actually, we talked about this. What is the process for breaking up with Will or Chris for any companies? I mean, we already talked about it, Lila, so it's actually early in the presentation here. So, but yeah, again, we're going to be talking about this for a long time, and it's going to be really interesting.
I haven't even had a time to react yet, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to go to social media today at some point and give my that, especially because it's really all those things. And when I watched the movie last night, as soon as all of that happened, I downloaded, I think I watched it on YouTube, whatever it was. It says, where can I watch it? Watched it. And it was a great movie. And there was a point in the scene where Serena and Venus's mom said directly to the father, because there was a disagreement in the section of Venus wanting to play a tennis match, and the dad was Richard was adamantly against her playing too soon. But the mom looked at him and said, "Don't mistake my silence as agreement."
Right.
Okay. I thought that was so, I'm like, woo, like, do not mistake my silence for agreement. And so that in this incident where there are people that are going to be silent about it, because we're still processing, right? Like, I think we're also processing and reacting as to like what happened. And I do believe, because there is a friendship, and that's almost the thing about it, because there's it's almost like a brotherly thing. I almost feel like Chris, like Will could do that to Chris, because Chris and him are tight. They're like brothers. It's like, bro, you come at me like that, I'm going to slap you. I'm not saying that's right. But like, if my brother and I get into it, now we're adults. I hope to God I don't slap him and he doesn't slap me, but we're kind of like family. So with family, you kind of, you cross the line a little bit, or you feel like you're justified in crossing that line because this is no stranger. And it's like, you should know better kind of situation. So there's also that perspective to look at. And top of that, Bobby, I'm an immigrant. I'm a child of an immigrant. As children, it was customary for us to be hit by our parents. So I got more than a slap on the bum. Like we were used to that. There's a lot of comedy about immigrant kids getting sick, including Russell Peters. You're gonna get hurt real bad, and you get hurt. So hitting another person is like culturally normalized. It's culturally normal still in many families today. So that's the other consideration that people who are watching that have never seen something like this are coming in with a lot of judgment, where I look at that coming from my background, not as shocked and been like, oh man, you shouldn't have done that, but I'm not like blown away by the situation.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm probably more shocked because I think it's a grown man who's 50 years of experience, and so being in the public eye, and so doing it on stage for those people. Yeah, I mean, there's so much time to do a better thing and not do that. So we'll see what happens with that. This has been a really powerful discussion, just talking about it. I think it's always important when we look at how we break up with different people. I mean, like there's different things in terms of relationships and whatnot, but I think it's really important to acknowledge the behavior and try to make amends, try to find ways to work it out.
Let me just leave with a few more tips, because I know we're going to wrap up soon when it comes
to breaking
up with someone. I think when you are breaking up with someone, you definitely, in partnership or personal, I'm always of the belief, wherever you can, you have conversation about it. There have been breakups that happen through email, through a letter, through a lawyer, through a text. And that's never a great feeling for someone to be left without being able to have a conversation. The other thing about a breakup that I'm going to say is a good thing is to express and state your intention, and always to have good intentions. In my mind, you're breaking up with someone, or you're ending a partnership because one or the other person isn't happy in that relationship. The expectations aren't being met. It's time to break up because you are not getting along. It's hurting the business, or it's hurting your family, your mental health, your physical health, whatever that is. So it's okay to break up when you need to. So do that in person, be honest, have good intentions about it. And then also, I would say, think about how the other person is going to react and plan for that. Because some people are afraid, as you said, people avoid. So I'm not suggesting to avoid, because the longer you avoid, the longer you delay, there is that feeling, both sides feel that it's contemptuous, it's bad energy, and then resentment starts to build up. And what could have been an easy conversation is now a situation of you're blaming, you should have told me, you wasted my time, and all of these other impacts when you ignore the situation. So I wanted to leave those tangible tips. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, no, those are awesome tips. And again, I think that, I agree with everything you said. And, I'll just point people that if they want to learn more about my thoughts on the actual incident, I did a detailed post on LinkedIn and even more detailed one on Facebook. So you can take a look at what I said about this whole contextual situation. Partnerships are powerful when they work right. And the right partnerships can go a long way. The bad partnerships, you have to find a way and use the tips that Carmelia gave here to help figure out how to let go in the best way possible. So thanks so much for your help. If you have further questions, guys, put them below, tag me and Carmelia. You'll see the replay on my page. We'd love to actually get your comments. And we're here every week. Next week's topic. What is next week's topic?
We are talking about, developing, and we'll do a week will have gone by for us to have unfolded this story as well. So this will apply. Developing emotional intelligence in partnership. So that is going to be a great topic. And you know what, Bobby, for our sake, I'll try to find an expert. We'll try to bring on an expert guest on emotional intelligence to give us some tips.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for being part of the conversation. Thanks, Carmelia, for being here. Thanks for commenting.
Thank you.
Have yourself a safe week, and we'll see you soon. Okay. Bye.